Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I almost said happy Friday, but it's not Friday. It's Monday. First Monday in May, May 3rd, right? Yes, it is already. What happened to April? We're already in the middle of May. Not in the middle, we're at the beginning. But anyway, I digress. Today's guest, very special guest, keyboardist, producer, a laundry list of people on the top echelon of artists that you can name, including Wolfman Jack. It's an amazing conversation we're going to have today with Mr. Franklin, and Mr. Bill is here to discover that story. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to Mom at Home. I hope you're excited to talk about everything you've experienced, Michael, and what we've got in store today. I'm going to turn it over to you, gentlemen, and let's kick off this conversation.
Let's do it. All right, Michael, good afternoon. Thanks for being here.
Bill, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure to meet you. And boy, those stories we were telling pre-show, I think we kind of need to start out with Wolfman Jack because that was a great story. But I know you said you had a couple of people you wanted to thank before we get the ball rolling here. So,
well, I just want basically thank Van, who got me in touch with you. Van's a great resource in the Yes world, and of course all my people here, like my Anthony, my social media guy, and my engineer Matt, and all the people that are involved in Solar Studios, my brother, and my session musicians, and my all the people that work with me on the different projects that I whip up. So.
Yeah, all the people that make it happen. And Van is Van Epperson, a tremendous actor. Look him up on IMDb. He's done a whole lot of work, and I'm always praying to see him on more things. So, we're going to talk a lot about Jon Anderson's 1,000 Hands album. Michael, that's how I first discovered you. Saw you and Tim and the band down at Humphreys a couple of years back. But let's kind of jump into that Wolfman Jack story and the little melodica you were playing a second ago, because that's a great way to start.
Well, I was playing at a theater as a house band in Maryville, Indiana. At the time, I'm living outside of Chicago, and we used to have all these oldie shows. All my guys were all jazz musicians, and to play oldies didn't seem like the thing that we would do. But like I said, the transition between big band music and early rock and roll, like Bill Haley and the Comets and all that kind of stuff, had a lot of jazz influences. And so we did all the oldie shows, and one of the whole oldie shows happened to be Wolfman Jack was on the show. And we became great friends and stayed close for a long time. And for years that I played the oldie shows with him as the MC, but eventually I moved to Florida to do a television show in residence at a place in Old Town in Kissimmee, where they built a whole building to do the TV show. And I was a music director there for 7 years of doing television. And at first it was a different announcer, but I was always trying to get Wolfman in there. And eventually I got Wolfman on the show. We went to Nashville Network. We were on television 4 times a week all around the world. And we had, many people on the shows. Some people might remember the shows. And it was great because I got to work with, for every show, like 4 new artists every show. And with my band, who's virtually stayed the same all these years. So.
So virtually the same. That would have been Tim on bass and
my
as
brother
well.
Tim on bass. We had a guitar player, Jim Gentry, who has joined me on my new project that I'm doing. I haven't played with Jim in a long time. He's a magnificent guitar player, and he's on the new Robbie Steiner album and in the band. And a drummer, Paul Parker, who is doing the rehearsals for the Robbie Steiner tour and plays with all kinds of people. And but he won't be the drummer for the tour. But he's helped me out, getting everything sewn up for Rayford Griffin is going to be the drummer on the tour.
Oh, great. Rayford's great. I think he was with you here in San Diego, yes?
I met Rayford through doing the Jon tour.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful guy, magnificent player. And my studio, Solar Studios, is pretty well known for the list of drummers that we've done. And I've heard some of the greatest drummers in the world have been in my studio. And I got to tell you that sound and performance and sensibility, Rayford's up there at the top.
Yeah. I believe he also played when Jon toured with with Jean-Luc Ponty.
Yeah, Jean-Luc Ponty, Stanley Clark, Anita Baker, many, many people. He's a wonderful drummer and a spectacular person.
Yeah, and a wonderful performer, all around musician.
Yeah.
It's interesting because hearing you talk about this, Michael, it just really makes it so clear that the music business still is such a sort of a word of mouth and like a little collection of family members almost. You know all these wonderful musicians, and you refer them, and they play here, they play there. People refer your studio.
Well, a lot of it, I think, goes back to the Wolfman Jack being the music director for Wolfman Jack and Dick Clark. Is that every show I had different people. I had to use some different musicians on different people. I have to add a horn section or another guitar player to play on a television show. So I did the Wolfman Jack shows for many years, and then I moved over to Hard Rock Live, and I was music director of Hard Rock Live. So this was 50s and 60s and 70s, and then Wolfman Jack was, and then Hard Rock was more like 70s and 80s. So I had guests there like Eric Burden and Les Dudek, War, many different people on those shows, which is more classic rock.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie West. So I'd have to have different people on there. I mean, like Leslie West came on to do the Hard Rock shows,
Mm-hmm.
and I really wanted to do Nantucket's Sleigh Ride, which was one of my favorite songs. And I had a 10-piece band. So we wrote it all out for 10-piece band. When Leslie came to do the show, he did the show, and he's, no, I don't do that song. I don't do Nantucket's Sleigh Ride. Why not? He goes, well, I don't sing the other part. I said, well, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a 10-piece band. He said, let's try it. So we tried it, and then it was like, oh my God, let's do it. So we have a recording of the first night, and it was spectacular. And, I have many Leslie West stories. Crazy.
When Mountain put out Mississippi Queen, and I saw them at the Santa Monica Civic, first time I ever saw a flying V guitar. I had no idea those existed, but his tone, his playing, his delivery, his voice, he was the whole package.
Leslie didn't really want to have other guitar players unless they were famous on the stage with him. And when he was with the Hard Rock Live band, Tommy Kelton, who you saw with John, it was on the show, and Leslie said, Michael, I don't have any guitar players play with me. That's it. I said, what, really, man? Tommy'd say, Chuck, Mr. West, I just love the way you play, and you're the best and all that. And Leslie said, oh, okay, son, you can stay on the stage. Next thing you know, he heard Tommy play. They started talking. They became good friends. Harmony guitar solos. But that's what it takes. You just got to bring people together,
Right. Yeah. Don't take no for an answer. And once these people do connect, like you say, all of a sudden you have two musicians who are now best friends, and they're playing, like you say, harmony guitar parts together. So it sounds like you were collecting your cast of thousands as all this went along. And that, in fact, I think played into the title of John's album, 1,000 Hands.
Yeah, the original title was called Uzlot, which is sort of like a Cockney slang for like y'all. Uzlot, go down to the pub and have a drink and whatever. And it just didn't seem to be reverent enough for what I was doing. And I had done a show in China, because I lived in China for 14 years. I did a show in China called 1,000 Hands, and it just sort of stuck with me. And I ran it by John, and it sat there for a while. And then he said, yeah, that I like the idea. And then, you put his symbol with the hand and the whole deal, and then he ran with it from there. And,
Yeah, he's such a highly creative man, musically, artistically, very forward thinking. So once he gets the germ of the idea and it sparks with him, like you say, he'll take it from there.
Some of my greatest joy in the last couple of years, since like 2015, I started working on the Uzlot project back in the 90s, as you know.
Right, yes.
It was originally recorded, and a friend had given me a tape of it and asked me to do some stuff with it, and I did. And I just had 4 songs to work on. And then I went out and saw John, and it was like, okay, let's do this. And then it didn't happen. And as John will say, he went off to play with Yes and guitar and stuff, and I had 1,000 other things to do. And about 2015, I played at the Bakersfield Music Festival with Iron Butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that Jon was not too far from there. So I, got connected with him and went up and talked to him about it. He said, okay, let's do it. And my first thing was like, I had to get up all the old tapes, bake them, put them into digital, fly them in, and figure out what to do from there.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then it was like getting a lot of the synthesizer stuff that was like the demo of it,
Mm-hmm.
and taking some of the great music that was there, but translating it through something that's going to sound a little bit more expensive, and to me, I've always been a natural music guy. I mean, I'm sponsored by Kurzweil and some other people, and I love the instruments, but I use those to be my palette,
Right. Yeah.
But, nothing sounds better than a real violin player playing a part or a real trumpet, So that's what I started doing. Started taking all the synths off it. And when you add Jean-Luc Ponty to a tune, you're not going to say, hey, would you play this part? Jean-Luc, could you, lend me some of your magic?
Right. Yeah. Do your thing here.
Back with this,
Wow. Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
like I say, you go off into a little bit different way,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of the songs, well, in Jon's album, for instance, Activate Me, it's called Activate Me. Now it's called Activate. Larry Coryell, I was doing a session with Larry Coryell. I produced his last album before he passed. Fantastic album. And I told him when I was working on, he played on a song for me, and then he played on a couple songs for Jon during those sessions. He's the first one to lay down, I want to say cameo artist on 1000 Hand. Yeah. Then it just started, okay, Ian, a good flute player, and, and then Robbie was doing a session on a Billy Cobham song I was working on. And then Robbie played on Activate, waxy build up.
Yeah, sure. But a good one. I mean, it just started to snowball. Right.
And the good thing about it is I would send the rushes to Jon, and Jon, enjoyed it. And then he would add stuff to it. And, Jon's part of my DNA, my musical DNA. So working on stuff with him is really a joy. I just sent him a new tune yesterday that is where I got a couple chapter 2 bound ones, got some songs from Bruce Hornsby. Okay. And so I've got Jon on some songs with Bruce Hornsby, and one of them of the many might make it to chapter 2, or maybe it'll go to a Bruce album. I'm not really sure. And so Lisa Fisher, the singer, talk about networking. Lisa Fisher, the singer with the Stones, was in the Crystals when I was playing with Wolfman Jack. Okay. She got the job in the Stones, so I've known her all these years, and I just put her on the Robbie album. And now I just sent her the song with Bruce and Jon to sing on that song. Oh, so it's just,
I mean, it's great. It's this big family contribute. Right. Yeah. How many balls can you keep in the air at once? But it's like a big family gathering all the time. Everybody's bringing their part of the meal to share, if you will. And it becomes this beautiful feast, which is, it's got to be fun for you sort of orchestrating what's going on here. Yes.
Michael, who's the horn section on that song? Power. Oh, I like it.
Amen to that. Now, you used a term a couple of minutes ago, and I just want to make sure viewers understand what you mean, because that was going to be one of my questions, actually, whether the original songs you did with Jon were on analog tape, and it sounds like they were. So that tape sat for quite a while, and we know that tape will start to demagnetize and lose the material that's on it. So when you say you baked the tapes to start this project up again, what exactly does that mean? I sent it to a
company in New Jersey. I have a warehouse full of old 2-inch analog tapes from the TV shows that I did.
Right.
Many artists I've worked with, I still have the tapes. They're in a warehouse. And after a certain period of time, they sort of fall apart.
Yeah.
And so you get one shot, they take them, they bake them to a certain temperature, and they take them over to their machines. And then they, like maybe one time, they get to spin them off, put them on, on the digital. What you get is what you get. Sometimes it might be just, it turns into a demo. You know, you got the skeleton there. The quality is not good, but you got the song, and then you can start to rebuild it. But in this case, a lot of the parts were really good, and most of it could make the album as far as the outline. Most of it had to be recorded over again in some form. But luckily, like Alan's drums on one song was really good, and Chris's bass on a couple songs, passed the test. And a lot of Jon's vocals were there, but of course he sang a lot of stuff. You know, he's gone to this transition where he does what he calls his vocalizations, to where he actually becomes his own beatbox, ba-do-boo, beep bop, all right. And then that becomes like a new layer of things, and then he might re-sing the vocal or re-sing the melody. It's all what he feels at the time. He's got a pretty good discipline. He gets up and sings, uses his instrument every day, and he's singing on tons of stuff.
Right. And when Jon layers and harmonizes his voice, honestly, it's like a choir of angels. It's like nothing you've heard before. It's
a lot of people are doing it now, but I mean, I contacted, Jacob Collier, and, everybody's a fan of Jacob Collier, would have been a musician. But I mean, look back in time. I mean, Mary Ford and Les Paul, sound on sound thing, but the first person in our realm to do it was Jon with We Have Heaven.
We Have Heaven.
Fragile. And a lot of people don't realize that when you put it in front of somebody and say, look at this guy's been doing this, in the 70s, they get a new respect for his, what's in his mind,
Yeah. And as strong today as it was in the 70s. So let's back up a little bit, because you said there was that gap in time. You met Jon, you guys talked, but then you kind of went on different paths for a while. And you said you spent about 14 years in China. I want to show a photo. It looks like a pretty fun little opening of some sort that you were involved in. What are we seeing here, Michael?
Well, that is my partner and I, Kevin Exum, and myself in China, in Taiyuan, Shanxi province, China. Starting in 2004, I was writing the music for Felix the Cat, and Felix the Cat cartoons was originally, the good friend of mine is the son of the guy who drew Felix the Cat.
Oh, wow. And
he, in the 80s, he was a music publisher, and he helped bring Felix the Cat to big prominence in Japan, Germany, worldwide trademark.
Okay.
And so when I started doing the cartoons for Don, his name is Don Oriello. I started doing cartoon music for Don. We went over to Japan, and when I was over in Japan, the cartoons were made over in China. So I went to China, to where the cartoons were being made in Tianjin and Nanjing, China, and I just saw a lot of opportunities there. One of the opportunities was I saw a little tiny carnival and a line going down the street. So I just thought, wow, China does have no carnivals, like, little state fairs and stuff. So I came back to the United States. I knew some people from the concert entertainment business that were doing the carnivals, and I contacted a guy. And then we made arrangements to bring over the first carnival to China in 2005. And we did. We brought it over in 2005, and it was the same year that the Stones, about that they first did their first concert. It was about that. And so the synergy of all of that, meeting with the Minister of Culture and getting licenses for the carnival and music, I ended up doing several carnivals in China. So, I mean, big, bringing over $40 million worth of equipment and touring them around Beijing, Shanghai, Tianjin, Nanning. And then I finally fell in love with a little city called Xiamen, and moved down there, and it's a musical city. They have a little island off of the coast. Xiamen itself is an island. If you look on the map of China and you see where Taiwan is, Xiamen is a little island a couple miles off the shore of China. And that's where I lived for like 7 of the years that I was in China, doing music, producing music, and, playing around China, producing Chinese artists. big music, big money over there, big things. I mean, people you've never heard of before filling stadiums.
That's fantastic.
Amazing.
And in fact, I had a run from about 1986 to the year 2000, 84, somewhere thereabouts, with the Vietnamese recording industry here in California, Orange County. And same thing, Michael. I saw some of these events that were huge, stadium concerts with the artists that were very near and dear to that community. It's just it's a whole different world that a lot of us aren't aware of. So for you to have had that experience and share a bit of it with us
Well,
here,
I've recorded a lot of Chinese artists. I have a really great album I just finished by an artist called Fei Peng.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic songs, and she's a great singer. And the Chinese have a true love of music. I think more than we do at this moment. Singing, karaoke, all that stuff is really sort of how they socialize.
Right. Yeah.
And they love music, and it's China's different than like Japan or the Philippines, where Western music is popular. China has very few Western artists that they recognize. One of my close friends, maybe I told you before, I produced the Crickets, Buddy Holly's original band.
Sure.
One of my friends, J.I. Allison, the drummer, whose wife was Peggy Sue.
Wow.
One of the songs he wrote, which was a hit many times in the United States by Linda Ronstadt and Leo Sayers, was "Whoa Whoa Yeah Yeah, Love You More Than I Can Say."
Yeah.
And in China, that's a big song. Everybody knows the song. They sing their own words to it. They think it's a Chinese song. They got it from the Vietnam War. And I remember going to a place called Kunming, which is in the very southern China. They have an equivalent of what is the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. Your octogenarians playing jazz. They have their version of it in Kunming, 80-year-old guys playing ancient Chinese songs. And I went to a concert and they played. And I went up to the guy and I said, where did that song come from? He told me it was an ancient Chinese song.
Yeah. One of the instruments we've become real familiar with at the museum is the pipa. Did you encounter that?
People play the pipa.
Yeah. A great friend of the museum is Wu Man, and she's done a few concerts at the museum for us. In fact, was a guest here on Mom at Home about a year ago, I'd say. So, we're in touch with that element. There's also if I pronounce this right, the sheng, or is it pronounced sheng? Sounds a bit like a harmonica.
The shengyi. There's a one. If you're talking about the thing that's like one string, or
no,
no. I think what Mr. Bill's referring to is the sheng, which is a reed instrument. It's a reed. It looks like it has all these pipes sticking straight up, and the artists hold it like a bowl bottom, and it's keyed. I think it's a keyed double reed instrument. They
have one too that's a straight down gourd that play. It's just a gourd, one gourd. That's a deedza. And I don't know if you are familiar with Tina Gao. Do you know Tina Gao?
No.
Tina Gao is a fantastic cellist that I produced a show for in Shanghai. She's like the lead cellist for all of the Hans Zimmer things. She Wonder Woman, everything. Go check her out. She's really great. But she plays all the cellos and erhu, which is
the erhu, yes, the single stringed instrument, which sounds like a violin. It's reminiscent.
Currently, I'm producing the National Mongolia folk group called Jonan. I actually had a tour happening with them in the United States before COVID, and actually John has sung on 3 songs with Jonan. They've never been released. So the National Mongolian Orchestra with John.
Wow. That's a nice meeting of the worlds. And it's interesting you bring up Tina. I write music myself and started to write a series of piano cello pieces. And I discovered her virtual cello through, can't remember which company it was, but so I purchased that to use in my writing, and her playing is stunning. It's absolutely
she's a pretty intense lady, and she's very, very good, very great pitch, great energy,
Yes. Yeah, really coaxes the music out of the instrument. Well, let's jump back to Jon and your process recording 1,000 Hands. We're going to show a picture right here, and what I love about this, I mean, it's great seeing everybody playing live in the studio. But if you look almost dead center, you see Jon with his arm up as though he's conducting the band while you're playing. So tell me about the recording sessions.
Well, the recording sessions, that's a rehearsal session. Most of the recording sessions would have been sort of, I'd bring strings in at one time. I got a great string section, and horns. I would bring them all in separate times. I have to tell you that it was a layered process because I really didn't know where I was going part of the time. I would just have an epiphany one night and come back to the studio the next day and say, I need this,
Yeah.
And some of the songs, Jon would send me just the beat bops. And he talks about a song that, which is true. He sent me a session of all his vocals, sort of a formed song. And then I was on my way to Hong Kong, and I just happened to download the session in the lounge in Orlando.
Okay.
And then I put it into the computer, and I got into it, and I had a couple ideas, and I stayed up the whole entire night, which I liked because then I could sleep when I got there and sort of try to beat the jet lag, And that song became Rama Lama.
Oh.
I mean, I was virtually finished with the song when I landed. I was happy about it. I sent it to him. He liked it. Then I brought in a couple musicians, Mitch Corbin on the banjo, and Jason on the violin, and Carmen played drums on it. Carmine, And so that had 3 drummers on it.
Oh man, I mean, it's such a fun song. You can just sense that energy of all the musicians, their contributions, and of course, Jon sounds so wonderful and happy singing it. I love that song. Matter of fact, when Jon was our guest in August, we screened the song as part of the show. I think at the end of the show, that's how we played out. Is that right, BJ?
Yeah. We ended the show with that one. It's great piece, really fun.
Yeah. Well, actually, I sent the album to my friend Bruce Hornsby, and when I talked to him on the phone, he said, "Man, Rama Lama blew my head off."
There you go. I think it's universal. Well, I mean, this whole cast of thousands concept, bringing all these players in, is so. I don't know. I think it's very unique because you've got sort of the core artist whose album it is, if you will, but you're adding all these equally stellar artists to the mix. And I'm going to have BJ screen a few photos here, some of the different players you've brought in. Maybe you can tell us, what their contribution was, what your relationship working with them is, and so forth. So why don't we start? Where are we now? There he is. Let's start with Chick Corea.
Well, Chick, I go way back with Chick. I met Chick at the White House Jazz Festival back in 1982. Of course, I was a big fan of Chick's at the time. My brother and I were a very young jazz band in Chicago. And Chick's wife, Gail Moran, introduced me to Chick at the White House. She said, "Hey, Chicky, I want to meet Chicky. I want you to meet this young man."
I love it.
And that White House Jazz Festival was quite a thing. It was the 25th anniversary of the Newport Jazz Festival in the Rose Garden.
Wow.
And Jimmy Carter was president. My brother had the camera, and I was walking around talking to people, and they had those yard glasses of beer, that you couldn't set down. Sure. And I had my brother's and mine, and had some great dark ale. And I was anyway, I'm walking around there. I turn around, and I bumped into President Carter.
Oh my!
And all I could say was, and my brother said I was a little tipsy. I said, "Great party, Mr. President." But we noticed all the people up in the trees with the guns and the things in their ears, guys sitting up there in the trees and stuff. And then we went backstage and behind the where the band shell was, and Dexter Gordon, the great Dexter Gordon, was back there. doing it.
No.
What are you doing? He goes, they ain't gonna do nothing for you here. They ain't gonna do nothing. You're here. They ain't gonna do nothing. So, but I saw U.B. Blake play the piano,
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Wilson, Dick Hyman,
Wow.
Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, and Cecil Taylor. And anyway, I'm watching Cecil Taylor play. I don't know if you're familiar with Cecil Taylor, but he's pretty avant-garde.
Yep.
And I'm a younger guy. 1982, and I'm right there, like near the piano, watching Cecil Taylor play. And a guy comes up to me and he looks at me, he goes with a New York accent, and he says, "What do you think?" And I said, it's either over my head or it's BS. He goes, "It's total BS." That was Stan Getz.
Oh my goodness.
And he says, if you really want to see a piano player, come with me. This is true. My brother and I, we got in a cab with Stan Getz and Dick Cavett and went to see Joanne Brackeen, who's still in New York playing. Joanne Brackeen play. It was like two piano players playing. And I became a fan, and I took a lesson from her like the next month when she came to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But at that White House Jazz Festival, I met Chuck Leavell, who I've been friends with forever, and made my connections with a lot of those jazz guys. And Chick, actually, I played the 1992 NAMM show in California for Kurzweil, who I've been sponsored by forever. And Chick came there. I talked to Chick for a while, and he got up on my rig and played a drum solo on one of the drum programs, and it was just utterly fantastic.
Wow!
So when I asked him to play the Jon record, he was delighted, and he played on some songs, and then I said, "Look, I'm doing this one song, and I'm in an A minor, and I got to modulate up to this other song in B flat minor, so I need a segue to get me there." He goes, "Oh, what's a key change between friends?"
Now, Chick's world musically and Jon's world really are in kind of different orbits. Would you agree with that? In other words, when you brought him in to play on Jon's album, how did that sort of mesh together and become a cohesive?
I don't think so, because I think both of them, I think Jon is a kind of all music man. I don't think he really has any barriers. I mean, he's not precisely like a bebop player, but he's in that modal world music thing, which lends itself to doing some jazz. And we have some of the new stuff there's some jazzier kind of stuff. And then Chick was into the modal kind of Coltrane, Miles Davis modal playing. So there's an area there where they really sort of come together. Right. And I mean, Chick really loved the track Come Up. He said, "Man, it's a deep track." Deep, wow. And he liked it, and he did such an amazing job on it.
Yeah. Now, this other Mr. Anderson fellow that you brought in on the album, I believe he added his magic as well. He
is a pretty intense guy, a very very intelligent guy. He's got some very stunning takes on things. And I mean, he was here last year, and I got an interview with a friend of mine who does a PBS. And my brother and I just sat there and listened to the hour-and-a-half conversation. And I mean, he's just so interesting and wonderful guy. And he just played on the new Robbie Steiner record also. And just very, very excellent musician. I mean, some of the stuff that he's done since Tull, I mean, of course, if you lived during that era, you had to be a Tull fan. I mean, Thick as a Brick and Passion Play, are like part of my DNA too. Jon's long song, the long form type of thing.
Yep.
But Ian also, with his foot in the traditional English kind of, Baroque music period. So he played flute on a new thing. It's called Pizzicato.
Oh my!
And he plays. It's a fugue that I put together, and so he plays the flute and penny whistle, and it's very cool.
Sweet. So you said earlier, I think, Michael, that when you brought in these players, you obviously weren't going to say, here's the written notes. I want you to play exactly this part. So with Chick, with Ian, was it just jump in and add your magic to it?
Like for Ian's thing, he when he played on Activate the first time, he said, "Here it is, Michael. You can use some of it, none of it, or all of it." And we used all of it.
Wow.
The song did have an edit in it. There was an edit where one part seemed to be redundant, so we just put it a little closer together. Right. But he's also on chapter 2.
Okay. Oh, and that makes me think of something else. Now it sounds as though he sent you the parts then, rather than being in the studio. Is that correct?
Yeah. There's some people who, of course, he's in England, and a lot of people came through, like Tower Power, Larry Coryell, Billy Cobb. They're coming through. When I sometimes it's like, okay, who's going to be around in the time period? And I would see what people I knew were coming, and I'd say, okay, well, that's why the album took a long time. We weren't in a hurry, and I wanted to get the right players on it. I thought that Jon's music deserved to have some celebrity recognition for what it is. If you just had a band on it, I don't think it would have gotten the eyeballs that it would by all these completists, like people who are into Billy Cobham or people who are into John-Luc Ponty or whatever. Now, the thing about Zap Mama on the record, when I went out to meet Jon for the first conversations about doing this in the 90s, at the time his favorite vocal group was Zap Mama, and it always stuck with me. So I always enjoyed Zap Mama, so I got a hold of Zap Mama, and they sang on 2 tunes. He didn't know it. When he got it, it was like, oh, wow, Zap Mama. Because I knew that he liked them. And they fit perfectly.
So it's almost
I don't think there was anybody that I asked to play in a part that didn't fit. Maybe intuition, or maybe they heard the song and they curbed what they were going to do to fit it, but everything worked.
You know what? You're bringing so many great questions to mind here. You acted obviously as keyboardist, as arranger, but also producer. Could you maybe go into a little bit more detail of exactly what you do as a producer? Because I know it's a person who wears many hats. Maybe while you're talking about that, we'll screen a little photo of Tower Power horns to show that they were on the album too.
Well, I taught a class at Full Sail here a couple years ago called Producing from Soup to Nuts. And it would be the role of a producer, whether it's you just coming in and you're, a band, they're going to do what they're going to do. And all you're looking to do is maybe try to get the sounds the best, or the soundscape environment the best. Or with people like Melanie, produced many albums for the singer Melanie. Sure. She got the raw song, and I would do everything on it. I do like a sequence and fill out what the bass part's going to be, what the drum groove is going to be, do the whole thing, and have her come in and play the record, sing and play the guitar, and then put all the people on it and just meld it into something. Or like Patrick Moraz, Windows of Time. When I did that, I have conversations of the initiation of that project, talking to Patrick, and he recorded the album in my house, original, the demo. And we were talking about how we wanted to be bookends, with the hitting the piano and the whole bit. And so a producer can be, you're helping the people get what they want. You're helping that they have their thing and you're putting everything around them, or you're coming with the whole concept. It's always a hodgepodge of one of those.
So when you're approaching a project, then it would be detrimental if you were to go in with a preconceived idea of this is how this is going to go, right? You get in there.
A lot of producers that it's their way or the highway, and I don't believe with the musicians that I work with that they would respect me if I said this. I want to do it this way,
right?
And now you go in with these great musicians, and basically I'm saying, bring it, give me what you got. Normally they're going to give you came up with a little part, they hear it and they're going to put their personality and all their years of training and whatever and put it into that part. And you go, that's what I want and more. So thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when these artists have their names on the album, obviously their fans, when they listen to it, are listening for, you know, the Ian Anderson sound that they're so familiar with, the Tower Power horns that they're so familiar with.
When Billy played on Come Up, he played on Come Up, and you know, at the beginning of the song, I said, "Hey man, I need that." He goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, man, that's your brand, you know." So he did a, you know, like beginning of Snoopy and the Red Baron or Stratus, you know,
right.
you know. So yeah, you want the guy to sound like he does. People like Chick and Ian, they can't help but sound like how they sound.
Right.
So when Chick plays, it's like, you know, what do you do with it? You don't tell that guy what to play. Hey, I want you to play this. Now, I do know some producers who do that, and I just don't think you're going to get the most out of it. It's like my analogy of when I work with Dick Clark and work with Wolfman. You know, I work with Dick Clark, and you know, I told him from the first time I ever met him that if you work with me like this, you're going to get the most out of me. You know, and Wolfman was the kind of guy, you know, he wouldn't chastise anybody in public. He would say, he'd take you over and go, "Hey, Mike, that's not right." Great. Yeah. Dick would berate you in front of everybody for something.
Ouch. Yeah.
You know, so two different kind of things. You know, you want to get the adoration of all the people around you to help you with it.
Yeah.
You know, help you. You don't want the people who are playing on it to not to give their all.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I got this idea. Oh, I don't want to hear it. No, give me your idea.
Yeah. And is it reciprocal? Do you sometimes say, "You know what, Chick, what you just did, that's really burning. I had a little thought. Maybe we could add something."
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, a real good artist, he might say, "Oh, yeah, okay, I get that."
Yeah.
You know, and no problem. With him or Ian, none of that happened, though. With other artists, you know, like I remember one instance I asked Larry, "Would you play this for me?" Larry Coryell, "Would you play this for me?" "Oh, how about this one?" "Oh, I like that better." Yeah. That's the way. You know, because, you know, different inversions on a guitar, you know, you think you hear it one way. I play a little guitar so I can translate a little bit, but you know, obviously when you're dealing with a great musician, if you ask him to play this line, he's going to say, Tommy Calton go, "Do you want that to be a chord, or you want that to be, you know, harmony or whatever?" He'll give you much more than you were looking for.
Right. So you give them the nugget, and then they give you the options. Yeah. And I think you'll agree with me on this. In my years, my experience has been musicians of that caliber, by and large, are not threatened. They're so comfortable in their own shoes that if another producer, if another artist says, "Hey, do you suppose you could try this?" They're not going to be threatened by it. They're not going to throw it back in your face and say, "Hey, I'm the artist. Don't tell me what to do." You know, that they're.
I have had a couple of those people. They shall remain nameless. But of course, again, then I probably didn't use them again.
Yeah.
I think the people who give you everything, and they surprise you and they make you happy, and they help maybe make the production or the artist you're working with happy. Those are the guys you always want to use.
Yeah, and you'll bring them back again and again and again. And like we were talking earlier, that word of mouth spreads, and it just helps blossom their career. So after you put the album together, then you took it out on tour, which was just a phenomenally fun show. And John and Janie always have these wonderful ideas for backdrops and just creating the total visual to complement the musical. Do you have any sort of fun stories you can share about the tour itself?
Oh yeah, you know, first off, the video walls, that's a story in itself. The video walls, not this particular picture, but the ones where we had them separated.
Yes, right.
I helped develop the video walls and over in China, and I had them here. I was sweating that they would get here to start the tour. And as you'll see on most of the shows, it's like 6 different screens. which
Correct.
became sort of the brand of the show. I helped develop that video wall company. Now I have this video wall company in Orlando called Monument USA, and my son is working that thing. So we've got video. We're renting them to everybody. We're renting them to Sammy Hagar and a bunch of different people. And so that's sort of like something I do on my productions. The video walls are mine, and you come up with the content to help tell the story, and of course, it's going to make any show about a couple % better because you're getting the visual. Everybody says you go to see a show, you don't go to hear a show. I'm going to go see that show. So you go see that show, and the video walls and the content really helped out the show. Bring the music across.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. I mean, I think back to the huge Yes productions back in the 70s, and it was always such a tremendous visual experience along with this amazing music.
There's a part in the song when we get to Worm, and our light director Kevin had this a tunnel, black hole tunnel kind of thing. And I could see all the people in their seats when we would go down.
Right.
And they would all go, whoa. It was like being on a roller coaster.
Taking us back. And you know what? You just touched on one of my next questions. You were obviously playing the material from 1,000 Hands, but you also needed to dig into the Yes catalog. And that's an area that I think Yes fans are very, very particular about. So what was between you and Jon, how did you work out the approach? Because I know there were horns, there were strings, different elements in there.
Originally, the idea was 23 people on stage, but economically that wouldn't work. And then it went down to 11. Then I figured, look at between 2 keyboard players, but you had to have a natural element in there.
Yeah.
So I had several violin players that I was interested in because to have a violin player played on the top of some synth strings brings the realism to, but then to a violinist. So I auditioned Jocelyn through a recommendation from a friend, and it was perfect because she could sing and she could play, and she could really play. And she's got great ears. So, like the solo for Owner of a Lonely Heart. Sit down, played exactly. Her and Tommy playing the solo exactly, was a thing in itself. But I had Joe, brilliant keyboard player, Joe Casas on second keyboards. And Joe was, really great pianist. And he was doing his thing. Plus, Joe played 1,000 instruments. The guy is he's crazy. I mean, I'd say, okay, we need a banjo on that song. And he'd come in with a banjo the next day at rehearsal. I was like, what? He played great, trombone, trumpet, harp.
I remember seeing him grab everything that was within reach. That's called job security, I think. Yes, I can.
But originally, all the arrangements for the songs, I put down an arrangement, and I sent the horn arrangement to Billy and the flutes and whatever he was going to do. Plus, you had to be somebody who could sing too. So I had a guy, a couple different people that were supposed to be doing Joe and Billy's parts, but just at the very end, it didn't work out, and I got them. Joe called me. He was in the Philippines, and he said, look, I'll come back for the audition. I said, thinking, I don't know the guy. What if he's not good? He's going to come all the way here for the audition. Break my heart to tell him, hey, man, you didn't make it. But he came, and he was brilliant. And then Billy came, and he had a great voice, and he could play the parts. And, of course, he's Mr. Energy, So it all worked out. The group put together, and with everybody to be able to sing, it made it work. And they immersed themselves in that Yes material. And a lot of it was trying to get the right sounds. And, I'm pretty happy with the sounds that I got. And I could put everything on one keyboard with the keyboards that I have that they gave me. So, I mean, entire songs where you'd see people playing 4, 5, 6, 7 keyboards, I could do all on one keyboard.
Sweet. Yeah.
And how do you do that? Well, just planning,
Right. Good planning. And, you mentioned the vocals a few times. That's so integral to the Yes sound, these tremendous harmonies that Jon and Steve and Chris, and I think Alan sings as well. So, you really did justice to those with all the singers you had in the band. Michael, I have a couple of questions from one of our viewers, if I can toss those your way.
Sure.
And then I want to talk a little bit about your Robbie Steinhardt project. All right, this is our volunteer, Brian Donaldson. And Brian asks 2 questions. I'll give them to you both. Were you involved with the 1,000 Hands Chinese dance? And his second question is, you talked about synths in the beginning of the interview. Was there a favorite that you had?
I'll answer that first. My first synthesizer was Mini Moog number 25.
Oh, yeah.
My uncle Carmine worked for Dr. Moog.
Wow.
And I got number 25, and I started playing around with it when I was a kid. And I did a lot of little radio commercials and stuff on it. And fortunately, I got a chance to finally meet Moog. He came and saw me play one time, and I remember I was playing some song, and I'm very, very particular about using the volume pedal to do strings and stuff. Strings and organ have to have a volume pedal to perform properly.
Yes, you do.
And I did this one thing, and he stood up. He stood up and started clapping. And he told the guys that he was with. He said, "Man, the guy really knows how to use a volume pedal."
Sweet. Boy, talking about getting the nod of approval. That's fantastic.
But, yeah, I mean, I was a Moog guy, and then I went to Korg synthesizers for a long time. That's actually me and Chuck used to do some. Lavelle used to do some things together, and I've got some photos. We used to do those Moog clinics. I mean, Kurzweil clinic, Korg clinics. I toured all of Europe with myself doing Korg clinics. The next time I talked to my brother, and it was me, Tim, and a KPR 77 drum machine going to all the music stores around Europe and England, playing, different things. And on one of them, I met Rick. I played Ronnie Scott's with Rick Wakeman for the first time. After that, I produced Rick's album. And that was the first time I met Jon. I met Jon in a pub in London called the Admiral. And this is true.
I love it.
We were Yes fans at the time, and we meet Jon there, and he was wearing a red leather raincoat, kind of a red coat. And he came in, we were having a beer with him and everything. We think, wow, cool. My brother and I got up. We both had to go to the Jon at the same time. And as we're standing there, we both at the same time went, "Sharp." We died laughing. We were just like, we finish each other's sentences. So that's the first time I met Jon. I can't remember what we talked about. It was nothing consequential. Just, you're working with Wake Me Up. Yeah,
right. Ricky Wake Up. Well, I mean, it just sounds like you are in the right place at the right time constantly. What a wonderful way to go through life. Let me throw Brian's first question back at you, and then we're going to talk about the Robbie Steinhardt project. And we're coming up on 3, so I want to respect your time here. Were you involved with the 1,000 Hands Chinese dance? Was Brian's first question.
I had a show in China called 1,000 Hands. It premiered in 2013. I actually had another show in 2007 called 1,000 Hands. So the name is sort of stuck with me. But the show, I have it on video someplace. The 1,000 Hands is the originally the Thai Siamese dancers, and all these girls. Well, if you go to China, if you're deaf, you're probably going to be, if you're a beautiful girl and you're deaf, you're probably going to be a 1,000 Hands dancer. Okay. If you're blind, you might be a masseuse. So you'll go to the House of the Blind Massage, or you'll go, So I was doing a big show in Beijing where I had Lang Lang play, and I had the Shanxi drums, all the big, taiko drums doing that. And the dancers that would come out there, there'd be all one girl, there'd be 11 of them or 22 of them standing like this. And they would go with their, if you see it on YouTube. Yeah, anyway, sure. I had my own version of that. I wrote some music for it, and I hired the Shanxi 1,000 Hands, and we did the show in Beijing, and it was a big success and amazing.
Yeah, sounds like something I'd love to go see. Is that something that tours?
It was
here in the States.
It did tour. That particular show was for a special show, and it only happened a couple times, but it was a big success. And I had some incredible, crazy acrobats on it, and then it all ended with a band. And my wife, who is a Chinese piano player and singer, we did the track for it. It was called "One Night in Beijing," would be translated, and it was a song. Began and ended the show, and that was for people who would come to see, like a show in Beijing.
Right, yeah. Oh man, that sounds beautiful. So, I feel like I'm always up against the hour here. We're about 5 to 3, so I do want to talk about Robbie Steiner. You and Jon are really kindred spirits, because that's about what he said when I told him we were running up on the hour. So Robbie, violinist with Kansas. What have you got going with him?
Like I said, I had Robbie come in and play on Jon's Activate. And that was actually the first time I really met him. That was a couple years ago, and we became really good friends. Our wives we go out to dinner once or twice a month at least. And he's the original guy. He's the original vocalist and violinist for all of the big hits of Kansas. He was on the first 9 albums, and as you know, how bands, except for the Stones, seem to replace members like whatever, like changing laundry. Robbie's been in the band a couple times, but he had some health problems, and he came in to play on the Jon record. Then he played on this cut that I did with Billy Cobham called "Climb to Grace," which became called "Rise of the Phoenix," and we got to be good friends. And then I started thinking about doing a record with him, and my brother and I had some songs and some ideas. His wife Cindy had some lyrical ideas, and next thing I know, this opera happened over a period of a year and a half, and didn't really think that we were going to do it like a band or a tour. But the people I brought in, Jim Gentry on guitar, who played with me with Rick Wakeman, who played with me with Joe Walsh. I hadn't really connected with Jim in a long time, and I went and saw him at a Peter Noon show.
Oh wow,
Herman's Hermits. So
sure thing.
A good friend of mine. Yeah. We both played with Peter at one point in time. We met at his show, and said, "Hey, look, I'll bring you in the studio." And 2 guitar players, hit Jim and Tommy Calton together. Now that's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
My brother on bass, Rayford Griffin on drums for the tour. Plus on the album, it's Billy Cobham, Billy Ashbaugh from the Moody Blues, Pat Benatar. Matt Brown is my studio engineer and a magnificent drummer. And Matt played on a bunch of stuff. Sometimes it's like, okay, I want to have a drummer on it. Matt would play it, and I go, I don't need anybody else on it. I mean, like Matt's on the first 3 songs on the record, and I couldn't ask for more of what he did, Yeah. So, and 2, editing drums and making drums sound good. A lot of songs for drummer engineers are everything is a concerto for bass and snare drum. So the
BJ, you want to weigh in on that?
All I can say is that I would never want to tackle trying to engineer a set of drums, especially my kit. You don't want to touch my kit, man. Although I bet you could make it sound like an angelic choir of drums.
Oh, we got 14 sets. We got 14 sets of drums here.
Oh my!
Awesome. I am extremely jealous.
I don't know how many snare drums we have.
Oh, you get the tour. All right.
Oh my goodness.
Oh geez, I could see in the shadows.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man, it looks like drum shop there.
Looks like a candy store to me. I want to.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome.
Those are all the snare drums.
Yeah, wow. That's fantastic. So cool.
I think BJ's going to hop on a plane and come out and visit you there, Michael.
I got family out that way. I'll find somebody to stay with.
I mean, we have so many drummers, great drummers in here, and doing all kinds of music. Might be the drum thing to do Latino music or a lot of country music. I've had like Danny Gottlieb, John McLaughlin, and Danny's a good friend. He's played on like Pat Metheny, John McLaughlin kind of stuff. And then Lee Pearson, who plays with Sting, and Carmen Apiece, Liberty DeVito.
Okay, so you got to set the record straight. Apiece or Appice?
You know what? I'm not going there. I've heard the two brothers say two different things, so I'm staying out of this. But I talked to Liberty DeVito this morning. Yeah. Liberty plays on Robbie's album also. And Liberty was the drummer with my Hard Rock Live band who played with all stuff. He was on the Leslie West video I was telling you about.
Right. Okay.
And he's a magnificent drummer, sound, and the best drummer you ever want to use to play a song.
Oh yeah.
He's got to know the words of every song. He delivers it like that.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of respect for Liberty.
Yeah.
Drummer. Fantastic drummer.
So what are you, sorry, this is going to sound like a pun, but what are you at liberty to discuss regarding the album you're working on with Robbie?
We're going to make a big announcement on Robbie's birthday, May 25th.
Great.
The title of the record. And, actually announce it. And the website will be up and the tour will start to be announced. And so it's quite exciting. I've got Steve Morris on guitar, Pat Travers on guitar, Tommy Calton, Jim Gentry on guitars. Who else? I got Ian Anderson on flutes. Who else? A lot of drummers. Lisa Fisher's doing vocal. Chuck Lavelle on piano.
Great.
I have a big orchestra version of Dust in the Wind.
Oh my.
There's a prelude, which is a sort of my version of some excerpts of Dust in the Wind. It's not actually the song, and then it goes into a new version of Dust in the Wind. Okay. And like I say, Chuck is playing it on piano, and Liberty's playing drums. And I've got a string section. I've got some great string players that I always use. I have a great violinist from Cirque du Soleil who's been working in my studio a lot. And he actually restrung his 5-string Yamaha to be a cello. Oh my God. Wow. This guy can play like you won't believe. Benoit Lagunis.
Yeah. So when you do the announcement on Robbie's birthday on the 25th, will there be a little synopsis of what the story of the opera is about then?
Yeah, it'll be self-explanatory by the title.
Nice. Oh, man, that's such a great tease. And all this information can be found on your website. I'm going to.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, there is going to be a website. It's Robbie Steinhardt. I can't tell you the rest of it. I really can't. I'm under NDA or they'll kill me.
I'm not trying to get anything out of you.
It will be pretty funny in the prog world, and it's all meant in the nicest way. Nice. So it will be. I believe that it's really going to cause a buzz, and it wouldn't be just about the branding of it, but the music is really good.
Yeah,
it's very, very good, and there's videos in process right now, and there'll be a tour, and so with all the other stuff that I'm doing, I've got several other projects going. Since this one's finished, I have like 4 other projects that I'm working on right now that we should be out before Christmas. I hope Chapter 2 is out by Christmas.
Good.
It's got Trevor Rabin on it, Rick Wakeman, Alan White's on one song, Chris is on one song.
Great.
And it'll have Tower Powers on another song. Jerry Goodman from Mahavishnu is on violin on a song.
Okay.
There's so many people on it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Bruce Hornsby. Jonan. I hope that one of the Jonan cuts would make it. It would be really great. I mean, to make it all encapsulated, this world vision,
Right. Yeah. Good. Well, boy, Michael, you've given us a whole lot to look forward to. So BJ, I know we'll post your website and people can just check that once in a while to see when things are coming up and just support what you've got going. It's just fantastic. All of it.
My friend needs
food. Bottom line, right? Got to put food on the table. Man, this has been great, Michael. Thank you so much. And it's interesting talking to you. We've got so many sort of common denominators. You were talking about Bob Moog. Bob came to the museum at one point. We had an exhibit about the legacy of Bob Moog, so we've got that in common. The Pipa. Jon has been a guest on the show here. I guess what I'm trying to say is next time you guys are down in San Diego touring, you should look us up at the museum. We'd be happy to take you through for a tour.
Well, I hope to get out there. I hope that COVID hasn't been too bad to me. Except that I, from having relatives and everything in China and spending most of my time in China, on that side of the ocean, there were some problems. I have had some friends I lost here, but fortunately, the studio business, if I was just a touring band, it would have been devastating because you wouldn't be able to do your art. But for me, being at home, my studio's on my property, and my brother walks over in his bathrobe to play session. He got his coffee in one hand, his bass line comes in. He still got his bathrobe, nothing else on.
It's one of the coolest things about this business, right? Trust as you will. Where was I going? I had a thought, but it left me. But that's all right. This has just been wonderful, Michael. Such a educational session. So much information
having me on, and as my grandfather said, Michael, find younger women. Their stories are shorter. So when you got a guy like, I'm, just had my 69th birthday.
Okay. Happy birthday. Congratulations.
I've got a lot of stories because I've been doing this business now actively since I was 16 years old. I had my first record out on the radio when I was 15, I think. A terrible record.
But it was a start, right?
Yeah, I went to number 9 on the local charts in Buffalo, New York. And, it was the first time I ever played keyboard in my life. And it was on that record. And it's horrible. Nobody knows about it.
But it had to feel good.
They do now.
Yeah, right. Well,
Michael, what's the name of the record?
I didn't hear a thing. What's that Bart Simpson says? You didn't see me do it. I can't.
Can't prove anything. Yeah.
Can't prove a thing. Michael, this has been great, and best to you, best to Tim and Anthony. Thank you for hanging in with us back there. And just continue success. I love these Cast of Thousands projects. It's so exciting.
Well, I got a couple more coming up. Hopefully the chapter 2. I've done enough music. I mean, maybe there's more than chapter 2 here. Of course, I told you about the Abigail Huang project that I'm doing. I'm recording that next month, and I got another project with Michael Winslow. I don't know if you know Michael Winslow is the voice artist from Police Academy.
Yes.
I've just done one song with him. I think that's going to blossom into a very, very interesting record. Where he's doing all the parts.
He's a singer then? Singer vocalist?
Oh, no, he's the guy who does, the Jimi Hendrix guitar thing with his voice.
Yeah, right. I think his character name in Police Academy was Motormouth, from what I remember. But just remarkable talent.
But he can make almost any sound. I'll tell you how I got involved. My brother Tim has primarily played the string bass at all these local torch song joints forever. When he wasn't on the road with me, he was playing a place called Peter Scott's 5 nights a week playing standards. Timpano's playing standards. Now he's in a place called Eddie V's playing standards and stuff. So he could play almost any song, any arrangement on the string bass of songs. So one night he's in a club and a guy comes up and says, "Hey, can I sit in with the band and play the trumpet?" And he goes, "Sure." So the guy comes up, he has no trumpet. He's got his hand, he goes,
yeah.
So he's playing, a John Coltrane tune on the trumpet, with just his voice, and it was great. So that's how we sort of met him. And so I'm doing a thing where he's doing some pretty complicated tunes, all the sounds. Not sampling, but him actually playing all of the sounds.
Wow.
So it's a cast of thousands, but it's only one guy.
But no one has to know.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I loved him in Police Academy. Motormouth Jones was his character's name.
You know, recently we went to see Dweezil Zappa, and he got up on stage with Dweezil. And Anthony, what was the tune he played?
He played. He played
Cosmic Debris.
Cosmic Debris.
He played the guitar solo on Cosmic Debris. You know.
Sorry, I forgot that.
Can I ask what the timeline for this album is right now?
Well, we've actually put down the pieces for parts for one song, and I had to get done Robbie first, and then Abigail's album, which we didn't talk about live on air. She's a 10-year-old. Get the piano player that's going to be doing the Chick Corea children's songs. You know, and sort of something I'm doing for Chick's memory, and then after I get that done, probably in July. I'll start working full time with the Michael thing.
Wow.
So it's all exciting, and there's other stuff in the wind. But you know, chapter 2 is off the back burner, going to be on the front burner soon. So I got to pay attention to that.
Why don't we wrap it up real quick, Michael, with tell us a bit more about Abigail. You told BJ and I some about her earlier on.
My wife is a pretty good piano player and singer. She was on TV in China, and she teaches exclusively Chinese kids piano, and she's got quite a few students. And you know, she's got her own little teaching studio here, and so Chinese kids are here every day in her studio. A guy that has a piano store had recommended this girl come over and do a Christmas album this Christmas. So she came to my studio, and I said, "Great, you know, she can go in there." I didn't expect much. You know, little girl's gonna record some Christmas songs on my Bosendorf.
Yeah.
So we had the piano all tuned up. She came in, she played 20 incredible Christmas arrangements on the piano in like one. About she's doing reharmonizations of sleigh bells, playing with the sensitivity of a 50-year-old guy.
Wow.
And I was just like, me and the engineer, like, oh my God. So the mom said, well, what can we do? She could be like 100 other young classical Chinese players, but I thought that she should do something really special. And at the time it was like, okay, we're going to, you know, this is before Chick passed. We're going to do the Chick Corea children's songs because no one's recorded them. And I gave her the music, and then we went over to her house like a couple weeks later for like Chinese New Year's dinner. And she played the songs. I was like, what? So that's a project I want to do. That's a bucket list project I want to do in memory of Chick. Here's a 10-year-old girl going to play his children's songs, which are hardly songs a child, you know.
Wow.
And so that's going to be great.
Yeah. Good. We're looking forward to that. And what a nice homage to Chick. Thank you for doing that. And again, thank you, Michael, for being here. We just wish you nothing but the best. I'm going to turn it over to BJ.
Having me on and, you know, call on me. Like I said, I've got a lot of stories. I'm going to look at.
Yeah, I would love to hear more. Just that's amazing. Just your career, man, it's huge, and the body of work that you have produced and are producing. Man, I can't even imagine. Can't get my head around all of it. So, I hope you continue to just create at a mad rush of all these projects you got going on, because it's just amazing music. Especially love the Thousand Hands album, and I'm definitely looking forward to chapter 2. So we'll keep that on the horizon. Where can folks go to learn more about everything you've got going on?
Well, currently it's just my Facebook pages, Solar Music. Michael Franklin. You go to solarmusic.com. Solarmusic.com is going to be upgraded here in the next week or so. But Michael Franklin on Facebook, there's several different Michael Franklin sites. Solar Music on Facebook, Solar Studios on Facebook. But there'll be, around the time Robbie comes out, Solar Music will have its own label starting in June. So I actually had Solar Music label up, but I took it down to just dedicate to Jon's thing, because I had a lot of smaller projects. But now everything's going to go back up in force. Solar music.
Awesome. So everybody out there, go check that out. Keep a pulse on all these wonderful projects in the pipeline. We're looking forward to seeing it. Speaking of what's coming up on the pipeline, great segue if I do say so myself. Let's look and see what we have coming up on Mom at Home. So as you may realize, it is Monday. So this week, because of obviously Michael's super busy schedule, we appreciate him making time for us this week, even on a Monday, beginning of the week. So we're very thankful to have him here today. We're going to resume our regular Friday Mom at Homes next week with Sylvia Tyson, Canadian Folk Music Hall of Fame. She's going to be talking to us about her career as well as the folk music scene from Canada. And then following that, we have Mr. Chuck Sirach, founder of Sweetwater Sound out in Fort Wayne, Indiana, one of the larger mail order and online music retailers out there. We're going to learn a little bit about the music retail perspective from Chuck, and he's going to be we're going to have a special guest interviewer. Our very own Joe Lamont, NAMM CEO, is going to be conducting that interview on Friday, May 21st at 2 p.m. So we hope you'll join us for those events, and then where did I go? There I am. Let's see. Coming on the horizon for the Museum of Making Music, we are getting closer to our public reopening. As you know, we've been undergoing a massive site-wide renovation. We're putting that project, coming to a close on that, and planning our public reopening on June 15th. So more information is going to be online very shortly. You can learn about what the reopening is going to look like, what's taking place, and how to get your tickets for that. Other than that, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Wonderful comments from the live audience, just enjoying today's program. Thanks for the great questions, Brian, too. Those are wonderful. And until then, everyone, we hope you have a wonderful week, and we hope to see you next week on the next episode of Mom at Home. Until then, take care.